If you're annoyed by suffocating political correctness that discourages you from saying what you really think, take heart. It could be worse. You could live in Canada. Ezra Levant lives there. He hosts a political talk show, and he wrote a book called Shakedown. Shakedown is upside down here, Ezra, because what? The speech police held you by the ankles and shook you till they got your money? What's your point?
Well, yeah, I mean, in Canada we have all sorts of censorship laws, but they're obviously not called censorship laws because people would know to beware of them. They're called nice things like human rights commissions. Who could be against that? But they actually shake you down if you dare say things that are politically incorrect that could hurt someone's feelings. That's against the law in Canada.
And you used to publish a magazine that reprinted the Mohammed cartoons that caused riots in various parts of the world, and just discuss where do we draw the line and what happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, we published a magazine article showing what all the fuss was about, not promoting the cartoons, just saying, hey, readers, this is what these riots were about. Well, I was subject to 2 complaints filed with the Alberta Human Rights Commission claiming that I exposed a person to, quote, hatred and contempt by virtue of publishing. I mean, I was a news publisher, and for 900 days, the government of the province of Alberta investigated and interrogated me. They put 15 different bureaucrats on the case. In the end, the case was dropped, but not before I incurred massive legal fees. And there is no traditional defense of truth or fair comment. These human rights commissions are sort of hunter-killers enforcing the counterfeit human right not to be offended. They came for me, and I'm actually still entangled in lawsuits emanating from that.
They have a 99% conviction rate? Because you're one of the few people who fights back.
Absolutely, and the one guy who got away, they actually appealed and won.
Now,
in Canada, if a regulator is coming for you, they have so many approaches. They can get at you through a Human Rights Commission. We have something called the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council that applies to guys like me on TV. We have our version of the FCC. We have civil courts that enforce defamation law that's tilted towards the plaintiffs. There's about 5 ways that the government tilts the law against free speech, but they're very selective about it. If you're part of a politically protected group, you can say things much rougher than, say, a conservative blowhard like me.
So if you're a liberal woman, you have more leeway?
Well, a little bit, but, you know, I think it's like a game of poker. Straight white male like me has, you know, maybe a high card of an 8. If you're a woman, it's like a pair of 2s. If you're gay, that's 3 of a kind, but that's easily trumped. If you're a black woman, that's like, let's say, 4 of a kind. But the royal flush is if you are an immigrant Muslim. That seems to trump everything. And I'm not just being cheeky. There are radical Muslim imams in Canada who preach extremist things, literally calling for men to beat their wives, calling for death to homosexuals. These people are never prosecuted under these hate speech or Human Rights Commission complaints. Never in the history of Canada has a Muslim person been prosecuted for hate speech under the Human Rights Commissions. But a guy like me shows a Danish cartoon of Mohammed in a magazine just to tell a news story, 900 days of complaints. So it depends who you are. You can say things that other guys can't.
And a couple of weeks ago, at one Canadian university, 2 men tried to convince students that abortion and homosexuality violate God's laws. They were then arrested.
Students, this is wrong. Even like those of you who disagree with me, we are all less free because of this.
When the second man was arrested, students cheered.
I think that it was a good move on the university's behalf. The way that they were promoting it wasn't wholesome in any way, and that it was kind of hating certain groups of people, and that's not okay in Canada. Here at the U of R, we're really accepting of everybody, and they weren't.
So we're really accepting of everybody, but we're not accepting of certain speech.
That's right. I mean, what's terrifying to me as a Canadian is that we have so much censorship because we don't have a robust First Amendment like you do in the States. But worse than not having a strong constitutional protection, we don't have the same culture of defending free speech, even for people we disagree with. And that's what was terrifying to me, is students cheering censorship, someone saying we're very open-minded except for people we disagree with. We don't have that great American tradition on the left and the right of free speech, even for crude speech. And I think we have to give credit to groups like the ACLU, who in the 60s and 70s went to defend even neo-Nazis and even racists, all the way to the Supreme Court. It has to be a bipartisan thing. We've all got to stand for free speech.
In America,
in my country of Canada, we don't.
In America, it's under threat too. Thank you, Ezra Levant.